Hello everybody, this is September and I'm checking in from the Thunderwing server today. In this video I'm going to wrap up the Unofficial 5.0 patch note series, but instead of doing another video where I just outline more of the patch notes that I've already talked about or you probably already read, I'm going to focus on a positive movement that we've actually seen in the Archeage community as a whole. As some of you may have already realized, there's actually a group of longtime players who have independently, but actually nearly simultaneously, started voicing well thought out, constructive feedback for both Trion and XL Games to consider. So instead of me talking about the rest of the patch notes that I had posted on Reddit, I'm going to break down what others in the community are saying and condense that into some bullet points and then compare it to what we're all saying. So for those of you who are interested in actually reading the rest of my patch notes, I will put a link in the video description. Okay, so let's get into it. There is actually 4 others that I have found thus far. There's probably more, aside from myself, who have gone public with their thoughts and ideas on how to get Archeage in North America / EU into, well, just a better state of being. So here's a list of the 4 people that I'm going to be referencing in no particular order. First, we have YouTube user exaltedwithfail. There he has a Archeage video series outlining major problems with Archeage in its current state. Next, I want to point out a user that I've pointed out previously, which is Foxfires, a YouTube user. Foxfires, that's 2 words. And she has done a video for 5 reasons why Archeage is struggling. Additionally, we have Archeage Forums, the official forums user Inyo. His post was, "How can we save Archeage?" And then we have another Archeage forums user, BangerAid, and that post is titled "Restoration of Archeage." So a link to their video or forum post will be in my video description. So before I break down each one of those, what I would say are thoughtful and positive videos or posts down, I want to be clear that I have not worked with any of these individuals, or do I have any knowledge of these individuals working together. These videos or posts have all been generated in the last, I'd say, month or less, and they've all been independent of each other. However, there's one congruent theme that I see throughout all of these. So this in turn makes it very fitting for me to use their information with my information in a capstone for this video series. Okay, now I'd like to take a look at each of the videos or posts and break them down into their core feedback points. So the first video that we're going to be looking at is the one on YouTube here by exaltedwithfail, and it is called 1% for all and all for 1%. That's part of his title. This is actually a part of a video series he has done. So in this video, he lists what it was like in the early days of Archeage and compares that to what it's like now. He goes through past Archeage patches all the way through the future patches, and that information is available from Korea or omnom.io, as most people know. And what he does is he underlines the theme of the video, which is really just lack of content for everybody. And then if you watch the first video that he did in the series called New Players and Why They Quit, you'll find that he talks a little bit about pay to win and gear gap problems for the newer players. Next, we have a video by Foxfires. In this video, she weaves a narrative that talks about how fun it used to be in Archeage, and then compares that to what we have now. Through the video, she describes in detail 5 problems, or what she calls them key issues, with the state of Archeage in its current form. First, she talks about the gear gap between old and newer players and how long it takes for a new player to catch up and the struggles that will ensue. The second issue is about major game changes and how they directly affect a person's way of making gold. The third issue she brings up is conflicting game mechanics, and really how that much of the content is designed to be fought over, yet it's better for newer players to play on a less populated server so they don't have to fight for doing that content. And the fourth issue she talks about is lack of content. And finally, her last key issue is what she has stated as the game's mentality, but what she's really talking about is the pay-to-win aspect of Archeage. Next, I would like to take a look at Eno's forum post. Here, Eno talks about the state of Archeage as a person who has been playing since Alpha. Initially, the post talks about how advertising, communication, and special events would help Archeage, but really the main subject matter involves using alts and the lack of sticking to the mature rating that the game actually has. And once again, finally, lack of content. I would actually surmise that the use of alts is actually a pay-to-win aspect of the game. And the mature rating, while annoying that we still get censored versions of things, that is actually just kind of a minor problem. So that really leaves this post with two key points: pay-to-win issues and lack of content. Finally, let's take a look at BangerAid's post. BangerAid appears to be another long-time player of Archeage who once again brings up the past Archeage and compares it to the current Archeage. BangerAid tells the tale of what it was like in the early days of Archeage and compares that to what it is like now, ultimately ending up with 4 points that need to be addressed. Actually, the first 3 points that he makes can actually be boiled down into a larger point, which is to remove the pay-to-win aspect of the game. His last point is about specific in-game items like cloaks and the library earring, but really, overall, what he's really getting at here is that he's expecting more content that is worth the effort of doing it. Okay, so that was a quick look and my interpretation of what others have been saying. It is at this time I'd like to reiterate the 5 milestone changes that I did in the original video in this series. Those are: number 1, dramatically decrease the need to use the cash shop for character development. Number 2, increase accessibility to existing content. Number 3, create new exciting content on a regular basis. Number 4, it isn't all for naught, which is basically a short way of saying what you've done in the past will always hold some value. And number 5, increase transparency. With that, I would like to add one that you may have seen that I attempted to address in my specific patch notes, but I didn't call it out as a milestone change, and that is the gear gap. In my mind, I actually always viewed the gear gap as a pay-to-win aspect. But based off of what others are saying, I believe it deserves to have its own label and thusly be one of the milestone changes that I'd like to see in Archeage 5.0. Okay, so now that we know what others are saying and what I have said, let's boil this all down into the 6 main things, and let's take a look at each one of these posters' viewpoints. So, you know me, here's a spreadsheet which shows each user and whether or not they view each one of these milestone changes as a core concern. Okay, so what we have here based off of mine and these other posters' concerns kind of ranks like a hit list for the developers to address. Tied for number 1, we have pay to win and content, whether existing access to existing content or just more content in general. Second, we have gear gap. Third, we have it isn't all for naught. Again, this goes along to say what you have achieved in the game will always retain some sort of value. And the fourth on the list is transparency. And I'm actually the only one that called this out specifically, but I feel like at the highest level, what others have talked about, like communication, actually goes into this transparency category. I would really like to thank each person that I've talked about in this video for taking their time either to make a video or to just go public on the forums. When you do that, you're opening yourself up for some criticism, and everybody gets it. But it is, to me, it is really exciting to see a portion of the community actually coming together. And instead of bashing the game, which is really easy to do when it's on a rough road, instead, we are offering insightful and constructive feedback in an effort to help the game return to greatness. This shows true passion and love, in my opinion, so thank you all once again. Okay, so now I'd like to ask you, the viewer of this video, what do you think? Do you feel like addressing the top 6 issues raised by others and myself would actually help the game? Do you feel like these top issues are adequately representative of the game's problems as a whole? If not, what are your top issues? If so, how would you rank the issues in order of importance? Let me know in the comments section below. Well, that is it for this video series. I hope you have found this video both helpful and informative. Please remember to check out the links in the video description if you want to see what others have been saying, and let me know what you think. If you would like to support my efforts to continue to make videos like this or about Archeage, please like and subscribe on your way out. You can also follow me on Twitter, and be sure to catch my Friday Twitch streams or find me on Patreon. Until next time, this is September saying, be well.